losing time, I'm fading.
Notion video. I was on YouTube last week and I kind of went down a rabbit hole and discovered this YouTube channel called August Bradley. And what August does is he has his own system within Notion that's basically a life operating system, and he calls it the PPV method. Now, when I first started watching these videos, I was very overwhelmed, but after I started getting the hang of it, my mind was completely blown. I couldn't believe how much Notion can do for you within your life and how his system has helped me sort of make sense of Notion, not just as separate databases for all the different things in my life, but how they're interlinked and connected. Some of the things that he has in his is content planning, action items, daily reviews, as well as things like different pillars in your life, projects, and even things like tags and knowledge vaults. Now that might seem very overwhelming to you if you've never heard a lot of these terms before. It was to me as well, but I'm going to try to walk through how I've set mine up. Now, I'm not going to show with you all the different details around the PPV system. I highly recommend checking out August's videos. He goes through each individual step of the process in a playlist of videos, but I'm going to show you how I personally use his system. There's a couple things that I've added to his system that he doesn't currently share or do, and there's some things I don't do as much that he talks about. So I'm going to talk about how I realistically use his system, as well as some things that I've added, including a few things that maybe only women would kind of care about. So if you're a woman, I might add some things. Obviously, guys can look at this as well, but I just want to show you guys a couple things that I have added that might be a little bit helpful if you're like, oh, that makes sense. I didn't think about adding that. So hope that you guys enjoy this video, and make sure to subscribe for more Notion and productivity and social media content. And let's get to my Notion. Okay, so the first thing I want to show you guys is basically the main center of how it all works with the command center. Now, August Bradley shares this in his videos, how he set this up. Now, I have a combo of some of them are actual pages within here, and some of them are actually linked pages. So you'll see if there's a little arrow, that means it's a linked page and they're actually stored somewhere else. That's what I love about Notion, is you can either have them listed or have them linked. So as you scroll down within, you'll see I have the action zone, which we'll talk about, the alignment zone, as well as many of the pillars within the PPV Life Notion OS system. So I also down here have things like the pillars, pillar support. Again, this is all things that he has on his. So each of these are linked back to the specific pages. So that's kind of how the homepage is set up. Again, I mostly use the icons that come with Notion. He has a bunch of icons he's found. I just don't have time for that. I haven't set them up yet, so hopefully at some point I will. But one thing that I just want to show you guys was kind of how I set mine up. I set it up almost the same as his, so make sure to watch his videos to kind of see how that is set up. Okay, so the first page that I really want to talk about is the action zone. Now, the action zone is really your to-do list. And the most important thing I've learned about this system, and the most important thing that I have applied, is having all of your tasks on one database, linking and relating back to the actual project they're part of. But really, you want a central to-do list. And that's something that I tried to do, but I failed epically at it in my last video. I just was like, I don't know how this all works together. So what's cool about August's system is what he's done is he's actually set up a ton of filtered views. So if I click on the filter, you'll see that he has, like, for example, the today view is where the due date, which is the date that you actually do something, and it's not the actual DUE date, the actual day that you're going to actually do it, is on or before today. And done is not checked, and status is active. So basically, these are all the things that, this was the day I was supposed to do them for something I did last week. I haven't checked it off, so it's still on my list. So it rolls over if you didn't do it the day before. So that's really cool, because usually in a lot of systems, like once the date is come and gone, you don't see it again, but it rolls over in case I didn't end up doing it. I also like the idea of a due date, because that's the date that you're actually doing it versus the date that it's actually due, because you want to do something before the project has to be done, right? The other thing that I've set up is a link to the project that it's part of. So if it's part of a larger project, and then also the knowledge vault and tags system that I'll show you also. So what's cool, again, it's all relational. So all of the things that you send it to and link it to, it'll link on that as well. So these are all of my current to-do lists. you can see there's different views. There's table view, if you've completed the item, and then also priority board. So if you have things that are high priority, but this is usually the view I put mine in. One of the things that he doesn't have on his board that I've set up for mine is the content production pipeline. I have now had a linked database so that I can see the things I have to do for my production. That's not for some reason listed on this template for him, but what I found is really helpful is I still like to have each individual item on the pipeline and not always just have a task as well. I like to have the full project so I can see what I'm actually working on. Because what he does is, for example, if it was I made a Life OS in Notion, which is what I'm recording right now, his action item would be record that video. The project would be this, or the task item, and then you would have just kind of like almost like an action item within. But I also just like to see what the project is that I'm working on. So you'll see if I've set up the due date as tomorrow, it'll obviously sort and filter in this specific view, and then anything later this week. So this is a template that's available on August's website that you can download. So I've just kind of basically done exactly what I just have to do. I have my due dates calendar, and then I also have my active projects, which again is also another template. So I, have all the different projects that I have in my life. I do projects a little differently than August. I am part of his Year Zero collective thing, which is basically his membership platform. And I talked to a few people on there, and I know that projects are supposed to have a start and end date, and you can see that you can have progress. But I also just like to have projects that are just things I'm constantly working on. And I know that's kind of part of the habit area, but for me, I still like to have just general overarching categories within a pillar. So that's something I'm still trying to figure out how to do. But basically I have the related to the tags and knowledge base. I also have priority and, a bunch of different things for just all the different projects that I'm working on. So that is the active action zone board. The next area, that's one that he talks about a lot, is the alignment zone. And what I like about the alignment zone is it really puts things moving towards something. One of the things I need to work on more is reviewing and doing daily, weekly, quarterly, monthly reviews of the things I'm working on. So all of those are linked. So the weekly insights, the monthly insights, everything is linked here, which I'll show you guys in the review area. But we also have all the pillars as a linked database. So these are all the different things that I have as pillars. I have different things like habits and routines. I also have my value and my goal outcomes. So these are the things that I'm actually working towards. Again, he has all the videos on this. And then I also have my projects database area. So this is, again, is the same thing I just showed you guys, and my action items database. So these are all things that I'm working on. I also have some quick links to some of the other ones that I'm working on, but that's basically alignment zone. Again, alignment is really focused on what are all of these tasks and projects working towards. So what pillar are they part of? What's your goal? And how are you getting there? So I wanted to share a little bit more about the pillars because I think that's important. I think one of the things that I've gotten most out of this system is the idea of having a pillar for different, almost like categorization of your life. And so for me, I basically have done the same pillars that he has. So I've basically now started creating projects related to that inside of each. So for example, business projects, these are all the projects I'm working on. I also have a link to a database inside of the knowledge tagging area where if I ever needed, a link to something that has more information about something, I can have that as well. And then I also, one of the things he didn't do, which I like to have, is I have a shopping list of things I just eventually want to purchase. And I've actually related that to the pillars so that I know exactly what which category they're in. So this is basically my Amazon shopping list that I eventually want to purchase. So now I've kind of put things in different categories, and it's been really helpful for me to see, I have a lot of things in the health and wellness that I want to purchase. Is that, worth my time? Is that going towards my main goal, which is losing weight? Obviously, I feel like that's just constantly a goal of mine, but I'm also thinking about specific goals, like how much weight do I want to lose by when? This is the first time I've ever really thought about it. And so here they have the goal outcomes and the value goals. So one of my value goals is to have a exceptional fitness, and then I actually have a fitness goal within the outcomes of what I actually want from that. So the pillars are a great way to organize and categorize your life. And this is something that I've probably taken in more than almost anything because I've started to apply it to other areas of my life. And at the end of this video, I'll show you guys exactly how I do that. I also wanted to mention that the API for Notion just came out. And so some of the task and the action item zones, I'm eventually going to start adding to my Google Calendar. August just made a video about this, so I'm still trying to figure out how it works. Unfortunately, I have a ton of recurring events and those don't seem to work as well with inside of Zapier and Notion. So I'll see how that works. But I just wanted to mention that the API is live now. So you're now able to connect to different platforms. I've recently connected my system into a software called Tally, which is a form software. So now when I have someone fill out a form, it'll go directly into a project database and I can actually have all the answers. So that's really cool. I really like Tally a lot. It's a great. Okay, so the projects database is basically all the different things I'm working on, whether it's my podcast or something I'm learning, a project that I'm doing. And so I have different boards for each of them. So for example, my blog, what's cool is if you've seen my previous videos, I already had a blog database, but now it's within the projects database. So what's cool, and I'll show you guys next with the content creation pipeline, I've now linked all of the different things that I have to do next for my blog within one giant list inside the pipeline. So this is a linked database with a filtered view where the channel is blog and the priority is high. And then I have all of the things that I'm planning to do for the blog here, no matter what the priority is. I also have a list of all of my past blog posts. So I use this basically as my overall blog system so I can still see everything at once when it comes to just blog. But when it comes to going into the content creation pipeline, this is something that has really changed the game for me, being able to see all the content that I do. If you watched my previous video about Notion, I had separate databases for everything and everything was just so separate and nothing was, linked together. Now what I have is actually all of my ideas and then sorted by channels all at once. And you can filter them by priority. So right now I believe it's filtered by priority. So these are all of my content ideas for everything in the future. So I have, if you scroll down enough, I even have like my upcoming podcast ideas, people I want to interview. So I have everything all now in just one area, and then it's sorted by topic and by channel. But for me, the thing that I love is I can see what's coming up next. Again, when the publishing date is, the channel it has to be on. So for me, I publish a ton of social media content. So I like to have this as well in my content creation pipeline. August doesn't really post a lot of his social media in here, I don't think. It's mostly just more like the podcast episode or the YouTube video. I like to also share, okay, well, what am I posting on Instagram tomorrow? And so that's something that I've now added a channel as Instagram. And I also have 3 Instagram accounts. So which one? Also tagging it back to the knowledge base. You can also even add it back to a task that you're working on, as well as even a project. So that's something that's really cool. Again, it's back to that relational database. Linking everything together is super, super helpful. So I can see also if you change things, you change the different status, all of these are filtered by status. So you'll be able to move it into published, or if I move it back to potential ideas, you'll see it's back up on here. So if I then search for it again, so Notion, let's just, click here. I can open this up. I'm going to change it to in production. You'll see it goes back to production. So that's super cool. You can see what's in the production pipeline. You can see what's scheduled next. And it's just super helpful to see where things are. And then one of the things that happens is you can also look at the calendar option. So you can see what's actually coming up visually. So that's, what's coming out today. And then also what's happened in the past as a published archive. So that's really, really cool. Something that I really love is this is, again, another template of August. So make sure to go to his website to download this. But I also have now related them to all of my projects as well as all of the knowledge databases. So that's the last thing I think I'm going to show you guys. Before I do, I'm going to show you the review area and then some of the vaults. And then I'll show you guys the project and knowledge lab. So I will show you guys the review area. So one of the things that's cool about August system is you're able to track different things every day, every week, every month, and really reflect more. It's something I don't do enough of. And so one of the things that, for example, he has this again as a system that I've kind of set up based off of his. A couple of things I've added to it that he didn't have. One is the number of steps I take each day. I didn't see that in his, and I think that's important. I have my Apple Watch to track that. A couple other things I added: take vitamins, take a shower, put on makeup. Obviously, he doesn't probably have that one. And then, you can link it to your weekly. Another thing you can also track is what you're eating. I like to have all of my food in the system, and I'll show you guys that. But I like to track and see what I'm eating. I also can track what I'm wearing. So this is something that I started doing is if you go into here, I actually have all of my outfits photographed, and now I can start tracking how often I wear things. So a lot of people are always like, well, I have this in my closet. Do I ever wear it? Some of these things I probably haven't worn in years. So for me to be able to track, okay, what do I actually wear the most often? At the end of the day, I can be like, what did I wear today? I wore this, black shirt. So then I can add that to my daily wear list. And that's been super helpful. He did not have that on his. And that's something that I've started to do for my own just tracking and stuff. The other thing that I had mentioned was with the food. So if I go back to pillars, if I go to health and fitness, you'll see under that, I now have the food area, which I showed in a previous video, but you'll see I have, the current things that are on my to-do and shopping list. I also have a meal planner of the things I want to make each day. I also have my list of recipes, and linked to those, I have the ingredients, which is part of my stock. So I talk a little bit more about this on a different video, but that is something else that I can start tracking is I can make a relational database back to the recipe and link and share what I'm eating so that I know what I ate that day. And that's, tracking part of my, if I wanted to track weight loss. So the last thing I wanted to share, before I do that, I'll share a little bit more about the review cycle. So then you can track your weeks. So then you can see that there's different dates. This is just a great way to kind of start taking notes, and he does a lot more videos about this. But the last thing I want to talk about in Notion specifically is the tags and knowledge lab. So inside the knowledge lab, this is really where all of the things that you want to have information about are located. One of the things that I have done is linked a lot of these to my Pinterest boards because I've kind of already done a lot of this inside of Pinterest where I have different categories of things I want to know about. I'll give you guys an example of something. One of the things that I do is let me just find an example. Let's find. So if I clicked on productivity and time, you'll see that it's related back to pillars. I put it under personal admin and finance. You can see what apps it's related to in my app database system. I have a bunch of different apps. I also have it related to some books. So I have a book vault that I have, different things that are related to productivity and time. I also have my own podcast where I've talked about productivity or any podcast that I listen to. So Beyond the To-Do List is an example of this. I also share any past blog posts where I've mentioned productivity, past YouTube videos I've made about productivity, or specifically any upcoming things I want to make. So another thing is I have, sorted out different notes. You can add different, linked databases or tables. You can do whatever you want inside of here. That's so awesome. And I feel like, nothing else in my life has been built this way. So I'm able to now be able to link everything with the relational databases. So one thing that I kind of showed a little bit was the vaults. So beyond the knowledge vault, there's also I have a book vault. So this is all the books that I'm currently reading. He kind of shares this in some of his videos. And then again, linking to the knowledge vault as well as potentially projects. I also have books that I recommend. The way that he does Media Vault is different than how I do Media Vault. I have made it more about the things I'm watching, TV shows, movies, YouTubers that I watch. So if I have some specific YouTuber, I also again relate that back to the knowledge base. And then podcasts I listen to, exact same thing. I relate it back to the knowledge base. So if I'm ever like, well, I want to learn all about ADHD, I would have, if you click on here, you can actually see I have all the different podcasts, books, YouTube videos, etc. that I'm doing. So for me, being able to use the Knowledge Vault as kind of my tagging system and a way for me to gather all the information I need, plus add on notes, is super, super cool. So that is kind of my quick run through of how I use August Bradley's system called the PPV, Pillars, Pipelines, and Vaults. And I hope you guys check out his channel. It has really, really changed my life. I'm gonna now show you guys how I use this system, specifically the pillars, in other areas of my life. I wanted to share a few things that I do with the Notion pillars. And so I'm gonna show you guys a couple of the different ways. So one of the main things that I use this for inside of Chrome is the Chrome bookmark. So if I go to the bookmark manager, you'll see I have all of the different topics that you'll see inside the pillars. I've now created folders within my Google Chrome bookmark menu. So now you'll see within each of these, I have different things. So you'll see if I drop down, mental clarity, I have ADHD information, I have content creation ideas, I have all the different, podcast links, video links, I have folders within folders again. But again, now it's organized with the pillar system that we used for August system that he set up. So now I'm able to know exactly where things are because I know in my head what pillar they're within. So it's been very, very helpful for me to be able to organize all of my bookmarks and assign them to different things. And that's been really, really helpful. So, these pillars have been really, really great for not just Notion, but in all aspects of my specifically online life. I do the exact same thing inside of Gmail as well. So if you go over to the left here, you'll see that I have, client operations. This is actually my other email, but you'll see with content creation, I have different categories. So with the podcast, I have different apps. So it's really helpful for me to have the different colored things. So for ME, which stands for Mind Expansion / Knowledge Lab, I have things that, for example, online entrepreneurs that I follow, anything that has to do with that kind of stuff. For sales and marketing, I have the different software that I use. For travel and exploration, I have things like Airbnb, that kind of stuff. So I've definitely sorted it out into these different categories with friends and social. I've got content creation. I showed you guys that. And then with business projects, I just feel like this has been so helpful for me to be able to organize all of my different, folders I already had organized inside of Gmail, but now I can do it elsewhere. Now I have done the same exact thing inside of Google Drive as well. So I have a couple different Google Drives, but I'm trying to remember all the different colors. I'm trying to relate them. I'm not sure if they're 100% correct, but I now have the different pillars inside of my Google Drive as well. That has been super helpful for me to be able to quickly know exactly where things fit in when it comes to the different pillars in my life. So now I have everything organized this way. It's been very, very, very helpful for me to say, instead of it just being a business project that has content related, no, that's just content. Put it in the content folder. I have a business project. That's what that's for. So that's been really, really helpful within my Google. Another one that I have used a lot is Notes on Apple. So I use Notes on Apple for a lot of quick thoughts and ideas, and I've now started sorting the folders, which I didn't realize you could have folders within folders on Notes. I just found that out this week. But basically I have my main pillar folders, and then within that I have other folders. So for example, with this content creation, I have all the different folders of the projects I do make content about, and then now I can add the different notes inside and then eventually add them back into Notion. I use Apple Notes just for quick thoughts, and so I'm trying to again put the system back together so it's easy for me to find whatever content I'm looking for. The other thing that I also use is my Canva system. So I have different organization based off of the different Canva folders that I have. So I've now organized within that. I have the business projects, clients, content creation, etc. So that's another thing that I also use. Okay, so the last thing that I have is I have made my desktop wallpaper have some of the different zones. So you'll see I've made this in Canva. This is an actual template. I can send it to you guys if you want to link it. I'll link it below. But basically I have different folders. This is my desktop, which is part of iCloud. And now I can have different content, YouTube, podcasts, events, and conferences. Those are all part of like content. I have my business projects, coaching and clients, knowledge vault, which is basically the mind expansion. That's any like classes I'm taking. And it's just a really, really aesthetic way to have everything organized on my desktop. So if I'm ever looking for something, I can just close all my tabs, go specifically to there, and have my quick access items that I need. So I thought that was a really good idea. I never thought about doing something like this before. I've never really
How it's supposed to feel.